Hi, my name is Mandy, and I am a career coach and writer, and I talk about how to be more joyful and bring more creativity into your life. Now, in today's episode, we are going to talk about the topic of discernment, which is the ability to judge for yourself if you really want to do a thing and if you really want to give it time and attention and energy. Now, oftentimes, we have trouble figuring out when people approach us and when people ask us for favors or for our time, we have trouble figuring out, is this even something that I want to do? Normally, we just say yes. Why? Because we want to be nice. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We want to be considerate. We want to be seen as good. In this episode, we're going to talk about 3 lessons. The first is how to protect your time. The second is how to protect your own agenda and not let other people's agendas steamroll your own. And the third is how saying no can actually lead to your yes. All right, so let's get started. Lesson 1, how to protect your time. Your time is actually the most valuable asset that you have. Okay, and if you are working a regular 9-to-5 job, those pockets of time before work, during lunch, after work, at night, these are the most precious and valuable pieces of real estate that you have. Because it's during this time that you can actually create things, or that you can actually figure out what's important to you, or that you can actually devote yourself to your side hustle, or growing your creativity business, or just freaking relaxing and being on your own and not having to do things for other people. There are 3 categories that I want you to be especially mindful of. These things are not negative just on their own, but cumulatively, if you find yourself doing a lot of these things again and again, you might realize that you're not actually getting that much out of it. So there's coffee chats, there's networking, and there's volunteering. I think especially as women, we try to be so helpful and so bending over backwards for everybody else. And I used to be a person where if someone asked me for a networking call or just to shoot the shit or pick my brain, I would almost always say yes, because I felt like I never wanted to be a person that, kicked the ladder underneath me. Like I always wanted to be helpful. And especially if I saw someone where maybe I could see a little bit of myself in them, I always wanted to help out, okay? But here's the thing. If you are trying to build something, if you are trying to create something, all of these pockets of time are so incredibly valuable, you cannot just give them away. And I'm kind of talking to myself too, because even today, I'll find myself being like, oh, maybe I should just say yes to that thing, or maybe I should just agree to have a coffee chat with a stranger. But honestly, I'm in a mode where I'm like, no, I want to be creating. I want to be building. I'm working on my business, and I don't necessarily have that kind of time to give away. I think especially if you work a 9-to-5, you're already giving so much of yourself to your job. And I think I kind of want to segue into this idea that you should not be giving any time outside of work to your job, okay? Because you need to reserve that for yourself. We are not static people. We are not like, oh, okay, I'm never changing, I'm never growing. No, you're always changing, you're always growing. There's always something that for yourself that could be worked on. You could be working on a creativity project. You could be working on your comic strip. You could be working on your novel, as I see in the comments, right? Like there's so many things that you could be doing. So I'll give you another example. When I used to, at one of the last companies that I worked at, it was a startup. And so what would happen, and I've got 2 young kids, so I would put the kids to bed. Okay, so they'd be in bed 8:30. Between 8:30 and 9:30, I was constantly coming back online and coming back onto my computer to reply to more emails, or to look at somebody's deck and give feedback, or to send out one last client email because they're in India or they're in China and I need to make sure that blah, 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 okay? But what was I doing? When I look back at that, I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Because that hour, that 8:30 to 9:30 hour That was my time. That was my time. And I just gave that away like it was limitless. Like I had a limitless amount of time, but that was false. And at the same time, if you find yourself giving too much of your time to your employer, right? This leads to burnout. Okay, so I'm going to draw a little visual for you. You are a perfectionist / overachiever. This leads to giving too much to your company. This leads to burnout. This leads to wanting to find a new job. Okay, so at some point, you are on this cycle. All right, you're in this sphere. You're on this circle, and here's the problem: is when you are at the end of that chain, and you're like, I'm burned out. I don't want to do this anymore. F this, right? When you're there, guess what? You don't have any time to give to yourself. You don't have any time to invest in your future or to invest in your own job search or to take a minute and actually just like breathe and take care of yourself and nourish yourself and get yourself back to neutral. No, why? Because you've given away all your energy. You're leaky. It's just coming off of you. Okay? So, number one, you need to be looking at your life like a scientist. You need to look at the time that you spend and you need to identify where are all the pockets where I have leakage. I'm sorry, but right now it's like if you want to be building something, creating something, making more art, writing something, leaving something permanent on this planet, right? You need to be selfish. You need to be selfish in the sense of there is greatness inside of you waiting to be born. And if you do not invest in yourself and if you do not claw your own time back, you're never going to get there. And okay, even if you're just like, I don't even have art. Let's just say you want an hour to yourself to work out, to go to the gym, to do your CrossFit, to do your yoga, to do your swimming of your laps. Even that is, you got to claw it back somewhere. You got to claw it back. And I talk to so many clients who will say things like, I just feel bad. I don't know. I feel like I need to be on call. I feel like my butt needs to be in the seat. I feel like my company's been really good to me. And if I disappear, that's like disloyal. I feel bad. Don't. Just don't. Why are we doing that? Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Okay? Don't feel bad. Number one, don't feel bad. So lesson 2 is learning to protect your own agenda. I see in my comments that a lot of the people watching this channel are generally creatives. They are people who are trying to build something, trying to create something, trying to make something, either whether it's writing or dancing or just some form of art, okay? And here's the thing is, if you don't understand what you're trying to create, other people are going to come in and try to dictate that for you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to know what you're about. You have to know, like, yeah, I'm trying to write a self-help book because I'm trying to empower other people to step into their power. Okay? Or you have to be like, I'm trying to write and direct and produce this play about the minority experience because I want underrepresented voices to be seen and heard in public spaces. Right? Like, you have to know what you're about. You have to know what your kind of mission is and what you're trying to do. And in that, you have to be a leader. Leadership often means standing alone in the cold and having a vision before anybody else knows what the hell you're even doing. It is a lonely, by nature, it is a lonely experience. Okay? The reason that I say you have to be a leader in your own art is because if you aren't, you will become, by default, a follower. Somebody else is going to come in and be like, oh, you're really good at choreography. Can you come help me do my thing? Right? Or if you really want to start your own business and you're so talented and you're basically running your company's business already, okay? But because you don't have the focus or strength or courage or money or timing or whatever, you're just not there yet, okay? And so then somebody comes along and is like, why don't you come work for me? Why don't you help me get rich? And then you could just put your dreams on hold. Okay? That's what happened to me before I went out on my own to be a coach. I went and worked for someone else for a couple of years. What I would not give to have those years back. In my prime, in my mid to late 30s, to have that energy, to have that body back, focused on my own shit, oh my God, what I wouldn't give. But no, I wasn't ready. Okay, I wasn't ready. I didn't have the vision yet. I didn't have the courage. I was still paying off my student loans, etc., etc. Reasons / excuses / whatever. It wasn't there for me yet. Okay? But the sooner that you can lock in on what is my agenda, what am I trying to build, what am I trying to create? And you may not know, like, I didn't have the vision even for half the things that I'm doing until I started doing them. So I don't blame you if you're like, it's a little bit hazy right now. Like, it's okay. All right. But you need to be locked in on something. Even if it's like, I don't know what it is yet, but I know I want to work for myself. Or I don't know what it is yet, but I want to express this sort of pain. Or I want to give language to this thing that isn't spoken about in the world. And that's going to be what I'm about. Okay. Even if the idea is not fully born yet or fully formed yet, you can still have conviction towards it. You do not need to have a perfectly baked idea to know, oh, this is going to be delicious. It just doesn't exist yet, but I know it's going to be the shit. The final lesson is that saying no will lead you to your yes. There was a time before I started this company when I was saying no to a lot of things based solely just on vibes. I was like, that's not it. And let me be very clear, okay? I didn't have other things lined up. I didn't have a crystal clear vision of jack shit. I just knew that's not it, okay? And I knew not to get caught up in other people's random ass ideas or things that did not suit me or did not fit me. So even though I didn't have my life perfectly together and it's not like I had this amazing other option, I knew well enough to say no to things that were not the vibe. I'm going to give you 2 examples. Example number 1 is at the time I was a freelance career coach. I was hired by a company. I would come in for a certain number of hours a week and I would coach their students. Okay? Part-time gig. I liked it because it was flexible. I liked it because, honestly, I was getting the reps in. I was getting a lot of practice coaching. I was getting a lot of turns at the wheel. Okay? And I also liked the mission of it. I liked helping people. I liked talking to different people from all walks of life. Like there was something sort of exciting. It made me feel kind of tapped in. Okay. At the time when I had first negotiated the contract, I was making $60 an hour. Actually, I think I was like pretty happy with it. You know, there are lots of people that are going to be like, what? You're crazy. I charge $200-$300 an hour. But for me, I was like, these are students. They need help. $60 an hour. Like, great. Okay. Then I had done it for 2 years and I was consistently ranked highly. I had great results, like because they quantify all of it. Okay. Then I had gone to them multiple times to be like, hey, I just wanted to raise this question. I've been here for 2 years. There's been no pay increase to even account for inflation or any of that. Would it be possible to discuss going higher? Especially because I kind of knew that other people were coming in from these big tech companies. And I'm like, there's no way that they're doing this for $50, $60 an hour. Like, there's no way. So I'm trying to negotiate more, right? And especially also because I had subcontractors working under me that I had hired and I wanted to pay them more because they were also like, what the hell? We haven't gotten a raise. So I'm trying to move it up the chain. Okay. So I'm like, I really like to, it doesn't even have to be substantial, but just as a signal to me that you value me as now a veteran coach, right? They come to me and they're like, no, unfortunately, we can't do that. And I'm like, just like flat out, no, like, no. Okay. I know that students are paying you $20,000 to take this course. You're okay. All right, fine. I'm already feeling like this is not it. Okay. Then they come to me. There was a lot of personnel changes. Then they come to me, I don't know, 2 months later, 3 months later, after they basically ghosted me when I asked them, hey, can I get this pay raise? They come to me and they're like, actually, we would love for you to continue on, but we have to do it at $30, half the rate, $30 an hour. And I just, at that moment, I was like, you know what? I don't have anything else lined up, but I can tell you right now, that's just going to be a no for me. And I took that as a sign to be like, okay, I've now done this for nearly 3 years. This has run its course. I also was like, that's just not the life I'm not trying to, because it's hard work. I'm not trying to hustle my ass off helping these people with interview prep, resumes, salary negotiation. I know your guys' business model. I know how much money you're making. Like, there's just no way. And so you know what? I said no. I said, actually, unfortunately, I will not be continuing. My last day will be this. Here is the handoff to all of my students. Thank you and goodbye. Okay, that's example number 1. Example number 2 is, so I went to Columbia Business School, and as part of Columbia's whole like alumni thing, they have a coaches network. Okay, so I was part of this coaches network for about a year. And I started to realize, okay, at first I was so excited because there's nothing, like, I'm obsessed with Columbia. I had a really great time there. And I wanted to still, to me, it was like prestige, I was like, wow, not only did I graduate from there, but now I'm on this freaking coaches committee and it's like invite only. And there's only so many people who are allowed to do it. But there's like the dream of something, and then there's the reality of it. So the dream of it was like, oh, I don't even know what the dream was. I think it was literally just like ego-driven prestige and being able to say that I'm like one of these select coaches, part of the thing. Okay, but then the reality of it is you are basically asked for several times to volunteer your time and do free coaching. And the idea is you do this coaching, and then over time, people come and they'll become your client, and this becomes like a client acquisition strategy, and you're also like listed on their website. You don't have to pay anything for this. I mean, it's very much like a do-gooding thing. But I realized, I was like, wait a minute. First off, there's a very specific type of client that's going to come from this. And that's someone who is Ivy League graduate, little bit prestige hungry, little bit obsessed with money and New York City and hustle culture and everything that represents. Okay. So I started to recognize like, oh, some of the clients that I'm getting are really just these like die-hard finance obsessed type people. That is not really like my thing, right? And then I was having to constantly be available. Oh, can you host this Q&A? Can you host this panel? And I just was like, wait a minute. What is this? What am I doing? Like, is this really what I want to be doing? Okay. And I know this happens to you. I know that if you are part of some organization or college, fraternity, sorority, like whatever it is, and then then you feel so much loyalty and so much pride towards this organization, and then all of a sudden you're just volunteering hours and hours, and you're like, wait a minute, is this even what I want to do? So after a year, I very politely told them, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, I don't think that this is like, thank you so much, but my tenure is going to come to an end. Okay. So here's what I think. I always envision when you are trying to create something great, you have to think about your field. Okay. Like the field in front of you. And what I was what was in my field? I've got this Columbia thing that I'm constantly just giving time to. I've got this boot camp thing that they're asking me to take half pay, and I'm just like, what? Like, it's not even the money, guys. It's the messaging. The messaging was like, we don't really value that much, and also we are having issues. So therefore, can you take a 50% pay cut? And so I thought about, this is where I'm spending my energy. This is where I'm spending my time. The contour of my day is doing this and doing this. And you know what? Sometimes when you say no, when you just clear the board and when you're like, no, when I pushed those things gently away and said, actually, I think I'm just going to hold space, and I don't know what's going to be in here, but I sure as hell know whatever I create that may be messy and may take time, but whatever I create is going to have a lot of value in this open space. So I think that's what you have to do. You have to create that for yourself. You have to push out strategically, intelligently, with kindness, with love. Push out the shit that doesn't make any sense. And if you have a fear, like, I can't do that because I don't, like, that's normal. You're gonna have that fear. But if you really want to create something great, you gotta get rid of that shit. You have to. The only reason that I'm here now, the only reason why I'm able to talk freely, to record a YouTube in my freaking house, okay, to be on TikTok, to write these journals, to write this book, the only reason I'm able to do all of that stuff is because 2 years ago, I did this. Nope. And I think that was the single biggest, most important action that I did. I just made space for myself. So to recap, the 3 lessons from today. Number 1, protect your time. It is your most precious and valuable asset. Number 2, protect your agenda. Don't absorb other people's ideas of what you should be working on. Make your own. And number 3, saying no and clearing the board thoughtfully can lead to your yes. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. It is not lost on me. I know you have so many options of random ass things that you could be clicking on, and I'm so grateful that you guys are here and into it, and I'm going to keep showing up, and I love you so much, and thank you. Goodbye.